Episode 80 of the Pilot podcast takes off now.
Yeah, I'm Dick Knapinski. I'm Director of Communications for the Experimental Aircraft Association here in Oshkosh and been here since 1992.
AV Nation, today's episode is brought to you by Sporty's 2020 Learn to Fly course. I don't know if you were like me in my training, but I needed every resource possible to pass an FAA written test, to pass my practical, to pass the oral. So this is a great opportunity. It's called Sporty's 2020 Learn to Fly course, and it's an opportunity for you to ace your FAA written test, save money during flight training, and become a better pilot with Sporty's 2020 Learn to Fly course. Over 15 hours of HD video and animations explaining everything you need to know to earn your private pilot certificate and, most importantly, feel confident in the left seat. Combine that powerful test prep tool and a comprehensive document library with the convenient app options, and you have aviation's most complete training course. Plus, free lifetime updates mean you'll always have access to the latest information and study tools. There are no subscriptions and no upgrade fees. Just buy the course once and enjoy it for life. Sporty's 2020 Learn to Fly course is available online, or use the dedicated apps for iPad, iPhone, Android, Apple TV, and Roku. They literally have an app for everything you could possibly use to study for this. Your progress always stays in sync, and for more information or to sign up today, visit sportys.com/P2P course. That's sportys.com/P2P course. What is going on, AV Nation, and welcome back to the Pilot podcast. As you heard in the intro, today we are featuring Dick Knapinski. He works for the EAA. He's been there for a little bit of time, so he has some great insight on what EAA has gone from and what it is today. I look forward to sharing this episode with you. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review on iTunes. We're currently at 365 reviews. I'd love to get to 400 by the end of the year, so go ahead and head over to iTunes and leave us a review and let me know what you think. If you'd like to visit us on any of our other social media platforms, check out our website, pilotthepilothq.com. You can find out all of our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, anything that you'd want to look us up on, we are there. AV Nation, I don't want to keep you any longer. So any further ado, here's Dick Knapinski. Dick, what's going on? Thanks for coming on the Pilot podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure. So glad you could make it to Oshkosh, and it's not AirVenture season. You can see it looks a little bit different right now than it does during...
It's weird. I'm looking out his window right now, and there's nothing out there. Just some, not empty hangars, but hangars with not thousands and thousands of people hanging around.
It's a whole different look. People who have flown up here during the off season, as we call it, there's still a lot going on, but it's not what everybody thinks of as Oshkosh, which is wall-to-wall airplanes, wall-to-wall people. And it's kind of a fun time to be up here because you can take your time, go through the museum, enjoy some of the other things that we have here during the rest of the year. Yeah, the museum's awesome. That was the first time I've ever been through the museum, like I was telling you before, and you guys have a lot of great stuff and a lot of cool history in there. So I highly recommend anyone to come check it out. It's worth your time. Yeah, a lot of people work very hard to keep that collection up and keep it clean and keep it to the standards that Paul Poberezny always wanted us to keep it at. And I still hear his voice sometimes when I see a piece of trash on the ground and I go pick it up. Yeah. That's really funny. Well, we'll talk more about EAA and talk more about Oshkosh in a little bit. I want to kind of focus on you, talk about your story, why you got into aviation. What was the original kind of, why, I guess is the best way to ask it. Yeah. You know, Justin, I've always liked airplanes as long as I could remember. Growing up in central Wisconsin, we were about 2 miles from the airport, and there were corporate jets and other airplanes that flew over our house because we were on the approach pattern heading northeast from the airport. And so I'd see the corporate jet going over, or I'd see the airplanes flying by, and I was one of those kids during a baseball game that instead of fielding the ball, I'd be looking up and watching the airplane going over while the ball rolls to the outfield fence. And but you know, kind of like a lot of people, you go to school, you start off in your career, and you have the time, but you don't have the money. And then you end up, 1992, I ended up here, came up through the journalism side, and then ended up here doing public relations, being an assistant with that. And ground school was free here. Oh, cool. And I thought, okay, let's try it. And after that, okay, let's try a few lessons, see if I like it, see if I have an aptitude for it. And like most people, well, the bug bites you. And then bites you hard. Okay, now you're stuck. And so went and got my private ticket. I'd like to say I conveniently, crushed 3 months of flight training into 7 years because at the time, our family was starting and new house and all of those type of things, but eventually got my private pilot ticket and had that ever since. And so just one of the multitude of pilots here. And it has been a journey here over 27 years now at EAA where you say, how could I be so lucky and end up here?
That's awesome.
And do the things, and not being from an aviation family or any background in it, to have this and have this as a career and have the world come here to Oshkosh every year is something special and something we relish every day when we come in.
What was it about aviation? Because you said you're not from an aviation family, so there had to be something that kind of just like initially caught your eye. What was it? Just the plane? Was it just the sound, the smells, the sight of seeing something fly? What was it?
I think it's probably something that, wouldn't it be cool to be able to fly, to not sit in a car or ride my bike or whatever it was as a kid, but I can go all the way there by flying. And what an incredible sense to do that. And it became one of those bucket things. That is something I would like to know how to do. And like everybody else in flight lessons, there are probably times where you go, why the heck did I ever decide to do this? But you get through it and you keep working at it. And after you accomplish that, what's fun here on staff is seeing people who have no aviation background come in here and then about 6 months in go, yeah, I think I'd like to try it. And we have flying club opportunities here with the staff and so forth. So you can go out and get your certificate and earn that. And I always tell people, it is one of the great accomplishments of my life. Those things that you can take this machine, put it in the air, go someplace, land it, and be there, and do that again and again and again. Paul Poberezny used to say that for thousands of years, people wish they could fly. And, for the past century, we've been able to do it. Why would we ever want to limit that freedom now that we can do it? So, you think about that, and that's really where it came from. I thought that would be so cool to know how to do that.
Yeah, that's a pretty profound statement to make because it is true. Ever for as long as time has been, I'm sure someone has looked up and like, that'd be cool to fly. I want to try to do that, and can't limit the freedoms of it. So it's really a cool thing to say. Do you have more than your private? Do you only have your private? What all ratings do you have?
Yeah, I just have the private. Okay. It's one of those things you keep looking on, and like a lot of people at school, school first of all took some of the money before I got into flying, and then building the career and so forth. And then got my license, and then my first two kids went off to college. So guess where a lot of my money went to all of a sudden?
Those kids, man.
Yeah. So, but it's one of those things now. You can get back into it and do all that, and maybe get some additional ratings. Do some things, maybe a tailwheel endorsement at some point. Something like that would be a heck of a lot of fun to do. Because the great thing about aviation is the only limit you really have is what you put on yourself. If you want to go get your instrument, you want to go get your tail wheel, seaplane rating, whatever it is, it's out there. You can go do it. Yeah. So it's one of those opportunities, but I'm one of those people that I like going from point A to point B, discovering new airports, putting some interesting ones in the logbook, things like that.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of adventures I like, kind of the expanded $100 hamburger in some ways.
Those are the best.
Yeah.
When you were working at EAA, was your full career then? Were you in your 20s when you first started working here? Or
early 30s.
Early 30s. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you kind of had a family, you had a career going, and you're just starting to fly. There's a lot of people that reach out to me and kind of say, hey, I have a family. I'm 29, I'm 28, I'm 30, whatever. How do I manage family, work, and flying at the same time? And you kind of went through training, and you kind of said it took 3 months and turned it into a couple of years. Yeah. But talk about the difficulties of kind of prioritizing flying when it's something like that, because I know a lot of people are in the same situation where they want to get their rating, and it's just life gets in the way. It's just tough.
It is tough, especially with a young family or families where you have kids that are in sports and activities, in school, doing all of those things, trying to find the time. I found out very often early mornings, right at sunrise, as long as you can, is a great time to do it. The wind is down. You get up there, especially after solo, when you're doing stuff by yourself, and you find out that the wind is a hard crosswind, and it's not that much fun. Well, in the morning, you can get away with that. You go out, fly for an hour, and
until the winds pick up, then come back down. Like, all right, I'm done.
Come back in. So, a lot of that. A very understanding spouse to do those type of things. Just fit it in where you can, and it doesn't have to be all at once. I had the great benefit of getting a local flying club here, which meant I didn't have to worry about a rental from an FBO or anything else. I could belong to a flying club that had an instructor as the president. And so you could set that up, and she didn't charge a lot. It was something she did in retirement and just enjoyed doing it. So it's one of those things. I was very fortunate to land in that, but I'd certainly recommend the flying club opportunity. If anybody has that and has that available to them in their locality, to pursue that, because then it's not quite as crushing. And you probably have a better chance at getting the airplane. Sometimes with FBO airplanes, they're marvelous airplanes, but there are a lot of people asking for them.
Yeah.
And so if you can get into a flying club, and mine was fortunate, I don't think we could have more than 12 people in at any time. So you had a very broad opportunity to get the airplane. And once I got my private certificate, it's something you could use to say, I'd like to take it for a weekend and take it up to, in my case, northern Wisconsin, where I had some friends. And I always tell people, instead of 3.5 hours of driving on a Friday night in the Cherokee, it was about an hour, 20 minutes to get up there. And then that's the great benefit. And you come landing someplace, and the one airport was right next to a golf course. So I'd throw my clubs in the back, call a friend and said, I'll meet you at 4:00 for a round of golf someplace.
Play 18, then I'll fly back.
Yeah, exactly. Or stay. It was just a lot of fun. So those kind of experiences. Was fortunate enough to put Meigs Field in my logbook.
Oh, cool!
Before it closed, went down there actually to see a Packer Bear game back. I think it was about '97, and came in. It was about 8:00 in the evening. No wind that night. Just a beautiful evening, and coming in over Navy Pier, all lit up in Chicago, and calling into Meigs Tower, and they said, "You're coming in from the north? Yeah, you're clear to land on 1-8. Just it's wide open, and it sat like an aircraft carrier out there, just waiting for you. Just get on the glide slope and come on down." And to do that, and then instead of 4 hours of driving through Chicago area traffic, it was an hour and a half along the lakeshore, seeing all of that, parking the airplane, hopping in a cab, and 10 minutes later, you're in the hotel. And it's just like, okay, now I see the benefits of this. And
I like this aviation thing.
Yeah, this aviation thing saves me a lot of time. And again, just the great experience to do that. So that's a long answer to a short question, but that's kind of where it went.
Chicago is I'm biased now because I live there, but it's one of my favorite cities to fly over, especially at night. You get all the lights reflecting off the lake, and it's just everything's lit up and looks really cool. Never got to fly into Meigs Field. I was 7 when you were talking about that story. Right. I was only 7 years old.
I'm old.
Wasn't able to fly to Meigs Field then, but I've heard stories and I've heard it's really cool. And I've also heard about the shutdown process, which was just crazy and illegal.
Well, I was on staff when that occurred, and we were all stunned when we heard that had occurred. And it is a crime, especially since it was so well used by not only corporate entities, but the emergency responders with the Navy helicopters and Coast Guard and the police helicopters and so forth. It was so convenient. And I always tell people that a couple of years ago, we had an airplane, small aircraft, I think it was an Air Coupe, that was heading back home after AirVenture. And
was it blue and yellow?
Yep.
I went to college with him.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, the story is they had an engine failure and had to land on Lakeshore Drive.
Yep.
And I tell people, I said, that it was this is what, as pilots, you train for. No harm to people or property, and you could fly the airplane again. So, a perfect emergency landing. But I also tell people, until about 15 years ago, there was a perfectly good airport they could have landed at right there, but they didn't. Yeah. So, those are the type of things. The one thing that I do recall landing at Meigs that night, was the evening, was when you'd look up, you'd see all of the airliners heading toward Midway and O'Hare over the top of you. And then you'd look toward O'Hare off to the west or the southwest, and it looked like a tornado of fireflies as they were in the pattern coming down, because you'd see them all lined up and doing the pattern work to land at O'Hare. And I said, wow, what a sight that is. And it's a sight you would never see except flying the Lakeshore corridor in the evening looking that way. You'd never see that from the ground, but to see it from 2,000, 3,000 feet, look over there and see that, and it's still burned into my memory, seeing that evening.
Yeah, what you can see from the ground is still pretty impressive too. Because I remember there's sometimes I'm driving home when I land at O'Hare and come back home, and you can just look out to the east and over the lake. You can still see like 6-7 planes lined up for each runway. It's just like, whoa, like that's crazy. I do not want to be in that mess right now. Yeah. Then you add weather into the mix, and it's just O'Hare, special place.
And everybody knows when O'Hare goes down, the country goes down.
Yeah,
and that's many times I think we've all been at O'Hare where they have to close runway and things start instantly backing up all over the country. And
everywhere.
It's part of what we have right now, but again, makes me very thankful that we can hop on our own airplanes and go fly someplace.
That's nice, for sure. So talk a little bit about your journey at EAA. So we briefly touched, I think before we recorded, that you really started in journalism, and you kind of talked about the NFL and some work you did there and stuff like that. What brought you to EAA, and what was I know you always loved aviation, but I'm sure there had to be, I don't know, like a lot of people get away from aviation that didn't necessarily start flying right away, then they come back. What was it that brought you back?
What brought me into it really was kind of happenstance. Again, I came up through the broadcast journalism side, working in radio, and then also had an opportunity to do some part-time work in print journalism here, covering the NFL, NCAA tournament, high school and college football, all the stuff you do for a local newspaper. And there was a public relations assistant opening back in 1992, and applied for it and managed to get it. I still kid the guy who hired me is that he hired me because I could pitch softball, because he was the pitcher on the EAA team at the time, and he didn't like pitching much. And so I blurted out in the interview, well, if this works out, you got yourself a pitcher. And
that's awesome.
And a couple weeks later, I got the job. So I always tell him, well, thank goodness you needed a pitcher, because otherwise I wouldn't be here.
Were you a good pitcher, or are you a good pitcher?
Well, we've got a trophy up here, from '99. So
the hire paid off. You won the championship.
And had a lot of fun with that. But hired as a public relations assistant, low man on the totem pole. I liked airplanes and could write a little bit because of the journalism background, and started there, and just kept working my way through. When my boss left, original boss left in 1998 or so, I kind of evolved into being chief spokesman for EAA from the communication side, and did that for a number of years within the communication staff. And then in 2010, they asked me to be director of communications, and that is where I've been since. And I tell people either I really like this job or I have no transferable skills whatsoever. And so funny. Here we are, 27 years after first stepping through the door of EAA as an employee, and still here. I tell people I went from one of the young lions to one of the old buzzards, but I'm not sure which year exactly that was. And it's been marvelous. I've worked with a lot of great people, met some tremendous people, famous, not famous, but just aviation is full of marvelous, generous, giving people, and it's filled with some of the others too. I think it's pretty much like the human race all the way around.
Absolutely,
you get the good and the bad, but for the most part, tremendous people. Our volunteers, our members, our chapters. This week we have between 30 and 40 of our chapter leaders here from around the nation, and they are sharing their experiences, their successes, their challenges. We're sharing the resources we have with them that we can give them from headquarters. And it's a great opportunity to hear how grassroots aviation is going in their hometowns. What's happening at their airport? Are they flying Young Eagles? Are they doing some other things? How's the pancake breakfast? All of those type of things that make EAA the organization that it is. And that's what makes it so marvelous.
I have a kind of a two-part question. It's kind of the same question, but on two different sides. Yeah. How have you seen EAA change in your career here? Has it been a drastic change, or have things kind of stayed like status quo the whole time you've been here?
It's evolved because it's always evolving. The members make it evolve because first and foremost, it's a membership organization, Justin. Yeah. It's you respond to what the members want. Paul often said, when he started out, people were building home builds from sets of plans, and they weren't always standardized, and so you were kind of guessing.
Sounds dangerous.
Yeah, well, there were, and I think the accident rate back in the 50s and 60s borne that out in many ways. But to see the kit evolution and now the technology available in airplanes, I had the E6Bs and the charts and everything else when I started flying, and now everything's either in the glass cockpit or in your hand in a lot of ways. You've got the small handheld GPS unit. Remember the first GPS unit we were using in the Cherokee cost us more than $1,000. You could get 6 airports on it. It was all in black and white, and and we thought it was the greatest piece of technology ever. But now to have the color moving maps and all of the things involved and the software available on your iPad that is part of it now. But to see some of the changes in EAA, first and foremost, the people are the same. They're genuinely interested. They're enthusiastic. They're passionate about flying. Mm-hmm. There is something in the human spirit that people will always fly. They will find a way to do it. It is something, though, the technology now is so much different. We used to mail out news releases and mail out packages for AirVenture, and you'd get an envelope with all of the admission, and here the camping, and here's the stuff you need to know. And God forbid if it had to change, because you'd have to print everything over again. And to now, you take a look at the website and social media and the instantaneous communication. And from the communication side, Justin, that's probably the most different part. You don't wait for a letter anymore. You don't wait for the fax to come back. It keeps speeding up. And now there's instantaneous communication, whether it's through a Twitter direct message, whether through it's a text message, whether it's through Facebook or Instagram or something like that. In most ways, that's good. In some ways, it's like you see with social media everywhere. It can lead to misrepresentations. It can lead to misinterpretations. And so being in the communication side, there's a demand to constantly stay on that and keep watching it just to make sure that people don't have a mistaken impression, or God forbid that they start running a separate agenda.
Yeah.
And, those are some of the challenges we have today. And one of the big changes we have.
Yeah. Because social media is an extension of your brand, right? So it's an extension of EAA, and you're giving that to more people, more access to your brand. And then there's also word of mouth. So if something gets spread that's wrong, like that can spread really fast. So it's something, like you said, you have to constantly be on top of. And as good as social media is, sometimes it can be your own worst enemy, because if one mistake can kind of, you've seen it. It could be something really bad, or it could be something that's very innocent, and it can just totally damage an institution, a college, a company, a person. So it's definitely something that you have a lot of power.
It does. And it's interesting to see that, because sometimes the controversy becomes bigger than the issue.
Yeah.
The controversy becomes its own animal. And, we try to prevent that and get the facts out there as quickly as possible. I've never understood those people that hide, and when something happens, you don't hear from them. Mm-hmm. An example is just a few weeks ago when the Collings Foundation tragically lost its B-17 out in Connecticut. Of course, we own and operate another B-17 that tours nationally. And while we had absolutely no obligation to answer any of the media questions, since it was not our airplane and not our tour and so forth, we felt we had to for a couple of reasons. One, we operate a B-17. We know what goes into operating one. And two, if we don't respond with the facts, there's a vacuum out there. And that vacuum will be filled somehow because the media is asking. And if we don't respond, somebody will. And are they accurate? They may or they may not be.
Can't always trust the media in aviation, as you learned.
Yeah, it becomes very complex. And I've spent a lot of time with reporters,
I bet,
going very slowly, explaining things, because some reporters will admit, I had one admit to me during the entire B-17 episode that the entire experience with flying that they had was flying down to Disney World on an airliner.
Yeah.
So, okay, I appreciate you telling me that on the front end, because we can go slow enough to help you understand. So that's one of the challenges too, making sure that if we don't tell aviation's story correctly, nobody's going to do it for us. No. So we have to get out there And we have to present that. So that's part of it as well, Justin.
And then my other question was kind of away from EAA, but still aviation. How have you seen aviation change? Like obviously there's a pilot shortage here, or a pilot shortage, I don't know, whatever. Some people say pilot shortage, pay shortage, but we'll just call it pilot shortage for now. There's a pilot shortage. There's obviously a shortage of people in aviation from all aspects of it. Did EAA kind of like, I guess another question would be, did you guys ever see this happening like 10, 15 years ago, being like, hey, this is going to happen in 15 years. We need to really try to get some more young people in aviation, or just how all has this changed and how have we got to where we are today?
Yeah. Answer your first question first. The technology is so different. Again, going back to, the basic 6 and the E6B and charts. And now you look at glass cockpits and moving maps on your iPad and so forth. It is so different. I mean, even things, from from carburetors to fuel injection and engines and all of those type of things. But to your second question, actually back in the early 90s is what led to the Young Eagles program, because we surveyed our members and said, what's the most important thing that EAA could do for aviation right now? And our members said, getting young people involved. Now, this is 27 years ago that they're saying at that time, we need to get young people involved. And that's what led to Young Eagles. And, now with nearly 2.2 million kids flown, and tens of thousands of pilots and aircraft mechanics and so forth who got their start with that Young Eagles flight. That's pretty impressive legacy by the volunteer pilots. And so the short answer is yes, we did see it coming. It is amazing now to see people from the airlines to Boeing to everybody else saying, we're not a little bit short on pilots and mechanics and technicians. We're tens of thousands of people short that we're going to need in the next 15 years as the baby boomers retire out from airline flying and so forth. It's critically important. And one of the great things is there's a place for almost everybody in aviation, as a pilot, as a technician, working dispatch, doing all the associated jobs within aviation that are so necessary. I've met a lot of marketers. I've met a lot of finance people who are involved in aviation. Those jobs are out there as well. So it is a wide open field, and telling young people that that's available to you, and it's cool. There's a certain thing about aviation that you're working in the aviation industry, and there's a cool factor to it. It's, for instance, I don't want to besmirch things like insurance, which is a wonderful industry and they do very well and they're very professional. I would have a tough time saying, okay, you've got a choice of being involved with airplanes all your life or insurance all your life. Okay.
I'll take airplanes. Now buy insurance for the airplane. Yeah. And, but thank goodness there are insurance people. There are aviation insurance people. Again, even in insurance, there's a way to work with aviation and be a part of that. So it is such a wide open field that we want to let people know that, especially women. Women are only 6% of the pilots in the country. And if we're going to fill that gap in technicians and pilots and mechanics, women are going to have to be a part of it, because get all the guys we want into the field, it's still not going to fill that hole. So we have to get women involved and see that, and trying to do some things on that order as well to let young girls know there's a spot for you here. And we have a responsibility to help change what may have been a traditional culture in many ways, and make it more welcoming and inclusive and those type of things. That's an important part of it too. So all of those things working together, hopefully we can get to young people and tell them there's a place for you. Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely a necessity to get more women in aviation, because you said it's only 6% of all pilots. And I don't even know if it's 6% of women in aviation in general, or if that's too high, because I'm sure like once you get into people like maintenance and other jobs like that, it might be even lower for what the percentage is for the overall amount of women in aviation. How do we go about doing that? Like, what's the best step? I've talked to some women in aviation, and they always said the first time they were released, they wanted to be a pilot. It was either their dad was helping them fly, or they saw another female pilot. They saw another woman piloting the airplane. So I think, is it exposure? Is it getting more women out here showing the young girls that they can do this and stuff like that? Or what do you guys have steps in mind to get more women in aviation?
Well, first of all, the second part of what you just said is really so true. When girls, for instance, those at our Girl Venture Camp in the summer, come here and hear mentors whether they're air show pilots, whether they're military pilots, whether they're own an aircraft company. We've had some of those come through here, involved in the highest levels, the C-suites from aviation companies, and talk to girls saying, this is open to you, to let them know that's part of it. It's work. And if you take a look at some of the sciences, if you want to be on that side of things, the engineer, the piloting, and so forth, there's work involved, and that might be it. But even if you want to be in the marketing finance side, some of that, there are spots for you as well. When we bring in an airplane, for instance, like UPS did or United did, with an all-female crew.
Yeah, that's cool.
To show that on Women Venture Day, to say, and you gather this year 1,000 women involved in aviation and get that group photo that we do every year. That shows there's tremendous power there. There's tremendous opportunity for mentorship there. And how do we get those women involved in aviation into the places where they can reach girls and tell them, this is available for you. Let's start to build that wave and bring it. It's Patty Wagstaff had a great line one time when asked about flying and being the first woman to win 3 national aerobatic championships. She said, the airplane doesn't care. And, man or woman, black, white, gay, straight, whatever it happens to be, airplane doesn't care. It just wants to be flown correctly. Yeah. And so as long as we keep thinking that's a dream, that you can go out and do that, we see marvelous examples from all over the place. People such as Heather Penny on our board, to Megan Flanagan, who was an Air Force pilot and so forth, or flying F-16s. All of these type of things. I better say this, I better back up. Megan was a Navy pilot. Oh, I'll get in trouble for
boy.
that. Yeah, so sorry. Heather was an Air Force pilot.
He said it, not me.
Yeah,
it wasn't
that's right.
I'm clear.
I want to stand corrected immediately right now. But nevertheless, it's one of those things that there are some mentors. Hopefully there are girls sitting in the audience or reading the articles or getting involved through things like Young Eagles that is something that we get to show as an example. There's probably no better example than in a hometown, a young girl getting a Young Eagles flight, and there's a woman pilot flying, which says you don't have to be a military or airline pilot or one of these people way up here to be a mentor. You can be a private pilot, a sport pilot, and you're flying kids and saying, you can do this.
Yeah.
Because I live in your hometown and I'm doing this. You can do this. And we've seen that example over and over again where Young Eagles get their pilot certificates and are now flying Young Eagles. And so if we can build that example, that's probably as powerful as anything else.
No, I totally agree. And I think we all agree, we need more bodies in aviation. Like you said, whether it's women, whether it's men, whether it's whatever, we just need people to fly planes and to enjoy aviation and keep our industry growing and keep it around, because without people flying, without people in aviation, there's no EAA, there's no Pilot to Pilot podcast, there's no anything of that. Yep. So whoever you are, come out and fly.
Oh, yeah. We all like it too much. We love to share it.
I know, right?
That's one of the great things, and there is a little bit of people say, you fly airplanes? And I think all of us who do fly go, well, yes, I am a pilot. And
Who, me?
Yeah. Let me get my scarf and I'll show you. And so there's some of that. And there is definitely a cool factor. I've gone places and met with friends and they said, well, how long did it take you to drive here? Well, I don't know because I didn't drive here. How'd you get here? I flew the airplane. Really? And then you get all the other questions. Can you do that? How much does it take? And so forth. And it's a chance for us to be ambassadors. And in order for aviation not only to draw people into that for a career, but just give it the right public perception that no, airplanes don't fall from the sky. They don't, all of these things that say, no, I fly. I enjoy it. It's something I do. And here's why I enjoy it. And explaining that to people and sharing that joy and that passion we have for it really makes a big difference.
Yeah. And then also tell them, be like, it's really easy if you want to do it too. Literally all you have to do is just go to this airport, knock on a door, and you'll get an intro flight probably that day, right then and there.
It is something that I say, people ride motorcycles, drive cars, operate power boats, all of these things. I said, it's a piece of machinery. Now there's a third dimension to the piece of machinery that automobiles and motorcycles don't have. And you have to understand that as well. But it is ultimately it's a piece of machinery that if you operate it correctly and safely, you can do a lot of things with it. I mean, there are people who operate lawnmowers badly, and so, but, those type of things that we have to understand that it has to be operated safely. You have to be trained. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to make sure you stay on top of things. But if you do that, it can offer you rewards you can't get anyplace else.
Yeah, I totally agree. And obviously in a minute, so we would all agree there as well. So let's talk a little bit about Oshkosh and EAA as well. I guess one question is, do you know how many members are at EAA off the top of your head?
Right now we have just passed 235,000 members.
It's amazing.
That number has been growing steadily over the past decade, I'm happy to say.
That's awesome.
There are a variety of ways we do that, reaching out to the aviation community, getting them involved. Having our members and chapters reach out have been so important, the 900 chapters we have. Also, as young people have been involved with Young Eagles flights, encouraging them to become student members. It's a very easy step. Become a student member. Be part of it and engaging them in aviation. It's not just a Young Eagles flight. Here are some opportunities. Whether you sign up for the Sporty's online Learn to Fly course, whether you see Sport Aviation magazine, whether, whatever you happen to do. One of the most exciting things recently has been the emergence of the Ray Aviation Scholarship Program. The Ray Foundation this year gave us $1 million to fund $110,000 flight training scholarships.
It's incredible.
And we have given out 96 of them through EAA chapters. Already, more than 20 of those young people have earned their pilot certificate. 55 of them have taken their solo flight. We've only had one drop out, which is a big step because right now we know people who start flight training, about 80% of them on the norm drop out at some point. We want to change that and reverse that 20-80 to 80-20. And right now we've got 90% plus still involved in flight training. Admittedly, they have the scholarship to do so, but you still need motivation. You still need to do that. It's been so successful in 2019 that the Ray Foundation said, we're going to up it 20% and give you $1.2 million in 2020.
That's amazing.
These are direct ways to create pilots. And so, those are ways that EA is working right now to actually make that connection to young person interested in flying, to getting them in the cockpit through our chapters, having the mentor program there, and have them see success.
Yeah.
And as with any other pursuit in life, you work hard and you see success, you're motivated to go on.
Yeah, it's funny when you brought up motivation. I didn't know it was 80% drop out. That's a big number. I thought it'd be more of like 40% because everyone has issues in their training. Everyone hits a stumbling point, and it's almost to the point where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is too hard. I don't think I could ever get this. And like, I had that. I'm sure you had that in your private as well, multiple times too. But it's just like everything else in life. If you really want it, you got to work at it. You got to push through. And it's how do we get those 80%? Maybe you can just get it down to 20% or 50% to start out with. Like how? Like just, I would love to know the numbers and the science behind trying to get that number down and trying to get more people in.
One of the big things is time and money.
Yeah.
People do so many things with their time, and learning to fly is not an immediate gratification situation. It's something that's going to be a long-term process. Even if you're dedicated to say, I'm going to earn a certificate in 6 months, it's a hard 6 months.
Yeah.
You have to be dedicated to it. The other one, of course, is money. And how do we start to make sure that we have flight? And first of all, having flight instructors, there's a crying need for flight instructors who aren't just moving on to eventually become airline pilots or do something like that, who are really dedicated to teaching. That's a need right now. And of course, making sure they're paid well enough while at the same time making it affordable for flight students to take that training. It's a complex problem. If there was an easy answer, somebody would have thought of it a long time ago. But it takes everybody involved in the community to say, how do we do that? The Ray Aviation Scholarships is one example, and we hope other groups and foundations follow that. And whether it's through EAA or somebody else, allow that to happen. Maybe it's in your local hometown to be able to go out and say, I'm going to fund a scholarship for a person to learn how to fly, who shows the aptitude and the dedication and the motivation to do it. So it's a complex problem. It's one that we have to keep working on because there are always challenges. Paul Poberezny said back in the 1960s, there were challenges to people learning to fly. Some of them just go, it gets too hard, or they think it gets too hard, or it's taking time away from the family, or the family isn't really supportive, or they scare themselves.
Yeah,
and that's where a great instructor, I think all of us in our flight training scared ourselves at one point or another. It takes a good flight instructor to say, okay, that happens. Let's get back in there and I'll go with you and we'll make sure that we get you over that hurdle.
Yeah. Learn from it and then don't do it again.
Yeah, don't do it again, because, I think we've all had that thing coming in too fast or bad angle of attack on takeoff or whatever it happens. And you go, whoa, because things happen fast.
Yeah, they do.
And so, how do we do that? How do we as a community not sit back? And often I'll tell members, I say, okay, it's up to each one of us. It's not the other person saying, well, somebody has to do it. No, each one of us have to say, how can I help do that? Whether it's through the EAA chapter, through a local flight club, just through encouraging people who might say, boy, I've always wanted to do that. You should contact my buddy over here at the airport and I'll put in a good word for you and get started. Take that first flight and make that first step and see if it's your thing.
Yeah.
And find out.
Definitely. Yeah. No, that's why I tell people that want to get Navy, it's like, take an intro flight. You might get sick. You might not actually like to fly once you start flying. So don't buy the Bose headset. Don't spend all this money before you at least see if it's like, everyone thinks flying's cool, but someone might not like it when they're in the air. You don't know how you're going to react. So definitely take that intro flight before you devote money. And
I always encourage taking people flying again in the morning or in the evening before sundown when the winds are calm and say, look at the gorgeous countryside out here. Isn't this beautiful? It's like glass out here tonight, and find those days. Because one bad experience, if you're being bumped all over the sky and you're looking for the bag, they're not going to come back.
That'll ruin them forever.
Exactly.
Ruins me forever when I have to fly. Like, I don't want to I have to do that again. No. So let's talk a little bit more about OSH now. So last year, 2019, you guys had the most people you've ever had. Does that happen every single, has it just gotten bigger every single year? Or were there years where it would kind of mellowed off and drop down? Or is it always, for like you said, last decade, your membership has just continued to grow? Is Oshkosh the same way?
It is amazing watching the last few years because heading in after 2018, which was a tremendous event, we topped 600,000 people total attendance and, saw the campground full and things like that. And we actually looked ahead and said, we probably won't do that again. Let's kind of predict 5% down for 2019. And then we started to see, it was the 50th year in Oshkosh, and we started to see the pre-event ticket sales, and it stayed up. It was amazing to watch that number going, wow, these numbers are up. We even went back and went, okay, let's make sure all the numbers add up.
Yeah,
we're not
this is
fooling
really
ourselves.
Yeah.
And we knew coming in that we were going to have a very successful year. We weren't expecting this. I mean, more than 6% up over the previous year. A lot of things come together for something like that. The enthusiasm for the 50th year in Oshkosh, something special there. Some of the things that were part of it, whether it's the home built and Burt Rutan coming in with all of his classic designs coming to Oshkosh, whether it's the gathering of P-51s and Bud Anderson that were here, 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 mission coming in, and Michael Collins being here, all of those things. And part of what we try to do is put together programs every year for every area that we have. So regardless of what your interest is, there's something there that will attract you to Oshkosh because there are great local fly-ins all over the place, but aviation needs an Oshkosh for a variety of reasons. One, what Oshkosh does for myself and a lot of people, you get here and everybody speaks the language. You don't have to explain why you fly. Everybody understands it. It is a great national and international showcase that turns out to the regular standard media, mainstream media, about aviation, and look at all the people involved in it and look at the cool things about it. Something that you don't get with a local or regional fly-in. You have this international focus on aviation on Oshkosh every year. And and finally, just to say, here's the new technology. We need a focal point. We need those kind of things where people can come together and say, what's new in aviation? what's old in aviation that we want to see some more of. Things like the XP-82 this year that took years and years to restore. To see that fly this year and to see it parked on the ramp with all the other variants of the P-51 through the years, well, that's only an Oshkosh moment. I mean, and that's why we need an Oshkosh, not only for the external showcase, but for ourselves to go back and say, yeah, what I'm doing is pretty cool.
Well, like what you said too, is like, I love the levels of it. So if you are never seen an airplane before, you can come and go check out airplanes. If you're kind of on the next level and you like seeing airplanes fly, you like being around it and the smells, you can go watch the air shows. Or if you want to build an airplane, you can go to a workshop and learn how to build an airplane. There's so many levels here for any type of aviator or av geek or just normal person that doesn't know anything about aviation. It's just a great place to get exposure and just to figure out what aviation's all about.
Yeah, that's such an excellent point, because we say, with 600,000 total attendance, there are 600,000 different sets of expectations when they walk in that gate the first time. It's not like going to an NFL game where the people there are pretty much unified on what they want to see happen. They want to see the team win.
Yeah.
But here, people come in for all the reasons you just described too. And they say, well, maybe I want the latest gizmo, or maybe I want to find that part to my 1935 weed hopper that I'm still looking for, exactly. And I can find it there. Or I want to get together with buddies I see once a year, or I love seeing the heritage flights, or I want to go to this forum, or I want to hear Michael Collins speak about Apollo 11 live and in person. All of these are expectations that people come to Oshkosh with. And one of the challenges is meeting all of those expectations. And we have a wonderful group of staff people here that do that. And of course, the 5,000 volunteers that make this event work. You can't say enough about them.
Yeah.
They come in early. They stay. This year, when we had the 6 inches of rain in 36 hours the weekend before, we had volunteers we had to tell to go eat and go home because they would just keep going otherwise. And, to see that come together, it is a phenomenon. And it's a phenomenon that you don't see a lot of places. And that's what makes it so cool and so special. And I guess why I keep coming back year after year.
Yeah. How to explain because not everyone will know this, the kind of logistics behind AirVenture and Oshkosh, and how far ahead you guys start planning. Did you start planning 2020 before 2019 happened, or is it everything goes up and once the day ends of 2019 AirVenture, is it all right, now 2020, who are we booking? How are we getting this? Do you guys kind of have the same idea of what's going to happen?
The short answer to that is yes. Yes. For instance, when the Blue Angels came in 2017, that was a 2-year process because the Blue Angels schedule 2 years in advance. So how do you do that? How do you bring them in? Especially in Oshkosh, where you have a narrow aerobatic box that is not a standard aerobatic box. How do you make that work, not only from the Blue Angels side, but from our neighbors on the other side of the airport, asking them to leave their homes and businesses for a little while so you can fly the air shows on 3 days. You have those type of things. When the A380 came here in 2009, that was a 3-year process.
Oh, wow.
Because we had French engineers coming out and standing on the runways, not to see if they were long enough or wide enough, whether they were thick enough to handle that airplane. So those type of things come in. The vast majority of years, as soon as 1 year is done, that's Sunday at 5:00, we start talking to the volunteers and the chairman before they leave. Okay, what worked? What didn't work? Things like that. Start to assemble that. We have a lot of meetings and discussions with companies, with aircraft owners who are at Oshkosh saying, hey, next year, do you want to bring that aircraft here? Or do you want to bring that program here? Or, what do you have coming next year that you might like to show at Oshkosh? And those discussions start on the flight line the previous year. And then you start working through them. And we get a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
We get sent a lot of ideas.
I bet, yeah.
There's no shortage of ideas that come along. Usually start, you people really should, and I'll just fill in the blank from that point onward. Paul used to have a great way of handling that because he'd have people come to him and say, you people should really do this for the fly-in. And he'd say, that's a great idea. I'm making you chairman of that. Find some volunteers to go with you and tell me what you need. He said about 50% of those people went away. But it's one of those things that there are always great ideas that come along to say, hey, what happens if we put this together? What happens if we do that? firefighting aircraft. That was something that somebody in the firefighting aircraft community came to us and said, you guys have never really showcased it. We've got some really cool stories to talk about. Okay, yeah, let's put that together. So this year was one of the things. The honor flight that takes place here every year was something that was brought to us and said, wouldn't it be cool if you guys could do that at Oshkosh? And now for more than a decade, we've flown 100 veterans from Oshkosh to Washington, D.C., and brought them back at the end of the air show the same day. And for really a very moving event. That's one of my favorites of the entire week. But those are the things that the event evolves as those who participate evolve with it and want to see things. And some of the challenges we have right now are actually those of the success that we've had. Where do you find places to park all the airplanes that want to be here? Where do you find places for all the campers who want to be here? For years, we've been telling people camping is the best experience at Oshkosh. People have listened, and now they're coming here and they want to camp at Oshkosh. How do we continue to meet those expectations in future years? That's one of the great challenges.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously you're limited in the space that you have for the airport and kind of the area around the airport where people are willing to give their houses on Airbnb and stuff like that. So how do you keep growing? How do you get bigger when you're limited to how big you can possibly? You can't fit it felt like you couldn't fit a single more plane or person or camper in there. So.
Yeah, you can't make more Earth.
No,
that's the problem.
Can't. Yeah.
And, it's one of those things. Looking at the grounds, and we're continually looking at the grounds. How do we make it more efficient? How do we move people and vehicles? For instance, this year we brought Northwestern University's transportation school in to say, look at what we do. How can we move people better? How can we park people better? How can we do all of these things in a better way? Jack Pelton, our CEO, has said, we want to have a goal of not turning any airplanes away who want to be at Oshkosh, and saying, okay, we're going to move you to Fond du Lac or Appleton, or you're going to have to go someplace else because we're full. How do we make it more efficient to bring people in? We've worked with the airport in freeing up more land at the south end and start to use that for aircraft parking as well, which of course brings in more logistics. You have to have the transportation, the restrooms, the showers, the food outlets, all of those things get added into that as well. How do you look at parking vehicles? Airplanes will always have the priority. Aircraft parking will always have the priority. But as you expand that, where do you move auto parking? How do you deal with that? Do you start looking off-site and busing people in like a lot of major events do? You take a look at some of the golf tournaments out there, PGA US Open, and they have off-site lots, and people who drive in will be bussed in, and it's a continual loop. Is that a possibility in the future? We don't know. We're still studying that. But those are the challenges that are in there because we are it's a huge event, and there are a million moving parts. And I often tell people you cannot knock over one domino at Oshkosh because it sets off everything else. And so, it's something that the exhibitors want will affect what the campers have and where the aircraft parking does and what the air show does and where the auto parking lots go and all of those type of things.
And on top of that, you get 6 inches of rain in like an hour and then you can't bring any planes in. So it's like, now what do we do?
Yeah, and you have motorhomes that are sinking up to the hubs, and then you have what I call a 3-mile long, 3-lane wide parking lot, motorhomes and campers waiting to come in.
Yeah.
And this is where I want to mention the community of Oshkosh, how important they are to us. Because, for instance, this year, there were parking lots that we called and said, we'll take campers. We had residents calling us and say, I can fit 3 motorhomes in my driveway if you need a place to put people. The YMCA, the arena downtown, the university, UW Oshkosh, all here saying, what do you need? How can we help? Those kind of things. So, you make a plan. You say, okay, if the plan doesn't work, here's what we're going to do. And then when things actually start, you say, okay, that's not going to work either. What do we do?
Yeah.
And you make it work. And that's a credit to the community. It's a credit to the volunteers and the staff. And it's a credit to the people who attend here to say, Okay, we understand. We have to figure it out.
Well, I mean, this has got to be the biggest week in this whole town's, and every single year, this is the biggest week for the whole town. I'm sure they make more money that week than they do on any other week combined for the whole year. So
it is. It's UW Oshkosh, the economics school, actually did an independent study 2 years ago. And within the 5 counties, right, Oshkosh, which is Winnebago County and the counties surrounding it, it's $170 million of economic impact for that 10-day period. Yeah. To compare that, the U.S. Open Golf Tournament, which was in Wisconsin back in 2017, was $120 million for the state. The Green Bay Packers are about $15 million of economic benefit for each home game. And so 2 preseason, 8 regular season, that's $150 million.
That's incredible.
AirVenture, 10 days, $170 million. If you expand that out to the state, it's close to $200 million.
Wow.
So it is an economic driver. It's one of the crown jewels of the state tourism industry here. And the fun part is, Justin, if you go any place and you start talking about Oshkosh, chances are within 3 minutes, somebody's going to say, you know about that big air show out there? You ever been there? Yeah, I've been there a couple times. Yeah. It's or they've been there, or their uncle or dad or mom or aunt or somebody, their neighbor has been there. And they say, yeah, we've heard about Oshkosh. And if you go talk to a pilot almost anywhere in the world,
Oshkosh,
and you say Oshkosh, they know exactly what you're talking about. So the community understands too the visibility that EAA AirVenture gives the community. And so it doesn't even, not only helps the gas stations, hotels, restaurants, all of that, the community, the economic development people will tell you, they say Oshkosh when they're making a visit to a company. Somebody there knows it, and so you have a foot in the door right there.
Absolutely.
Unlike a community, Springfield or Greenville, which is a common name, wonderful communities, but a common name, you don't have to explain Oshkosh.
Yeah,
they know that right away.
They know that. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. It's funny because my wife's in medical school, like we talked about earlier. She has some friends that are from the area. I was like, yeah, I'm going up to EAA AirVenture up in Oshkosh. And they're like, what? Like, I used to volunteer at the food stands there.
Really?
Yeah, when I was in like high school, and I was like, this is crazy. So it's like, it's a very well-known thing all over the world from people in aviation and outside of aviation too. Because they don't, all they did was just come here for the job or volunteering, and that's it. They didn't really care about aviation. So it's kind of funny.
But there's that touch point there. And again, what we were talking about before, Justin, is why we need an Oshkosh.
Yeah.
Whether it was us or whether it's somebody else, you need that central point where all the visibility comes.
Yeah.
And everybody looks at aviation for an entire week.
Absolutely. It's a great thing. And it's something that I didn't get to come to until 2 years ago. So I was 27. So I highly recommend people come earlier than 27, come as young as you want, because there's a lot of stuff to do. As you show me the kid venture side, like there's a ton of stuff for kids. There's a lot to do here. There's a lot of hands-on stuff for kids, teenagers, adults, whatever. Kids that are 60 years old can still come in and play around and play with a lot of things. So it's really cool.
Yeah. One of my favorites, is we have again, all volunteer run area. We take Pioneer Airport and make it into the Kid Venture area. And we have 25,000 people go through that in a week, and it's all hands on. Yeah. Kids are flying simulators. They're building model rockets. They're actually building wing ribs. They're riveting. We've got a place where you can take apart an aircraft engine and put it back together again.
That's awesome.
And kids can go through there. And we've had people say, I had no idea that you complete all the tasks. You get a toolkit. The kids get a toolkit handed to them at the end saying, yep, you've successfully completed everything. Here you go. And these are real tools, and they go
build a plane.
Yeah, they go. But it's that kind of thing that someplace down the road, we're planting seeds, and it might not sprout this year or next year, but down the road, 10 years, 20 years, somebody goes, that aviation thing, that was kind of fun. I remember that experience. I'm going to look into that some more. And that's where you get people back interested in it, and you get people enthusiastic about your local airports coming out there. And when it comes time to make a public vote, they're saying, let's hang on to the airport because it's important in our hometown.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I would definitely. I think everyone in this hometown would agree that it's important for you guys. Yeah. I guess one question that I was kind of thinking of while we're talking is, what's your relation with the FAA? Obviously, something that is this big needs to have some kind of special regulations for it. Like, what is it? up and down? Does it change every single day? Or they've been awesome? Or they've been like, hey, you guys need to do what you need to do. By all means, go do it.
We've had a tremendous relationship with FAA through the years. There are always some bumps in the road. A few years back when they started charging us for tower fees, that was difficult because it was a $500,000 bill. But and I don't care if you're running a church picnic or you're running Air Venture, to have a bill that takes a certain double digits percentage and increases it to your budget is tough to take. Fortunately, working through Congress, we've been able to get relief for large aviation events throughout the country to be able to have those tower services. Our contention has always been air traffic control services should go where the airplanes are, whether that's O'Hare, Hartsfield, and JFK. Well, for this week, it's Oshkosh. And so safety is the key. Safety is the priority one. So let's make sure everybody's safe. But working with FAA has been marvelous because it is such a complex airspace. You're talking about thousands of airplanes of different speeds and sizes coming in. A lot of people not necessarily familiar with the airspace. How do you train them? How do you establish a flow where it works smoothly and, most importantly, it works safely? And finding that 2018 was an example where we found places we could improve. It was one of those situations. The weekend was crummy weather. At 2:00 on Sunday, the weather cleared. Now you had thousands of airplanes trying to get to Oshkosh. We parked about 3,000 airplanes in approximately 6 hours.
Sheesh.
But you had a lot of people coming in, and pilots let us know some of the problems that we had. Okay, we're going to go back. We made a bunch of recommendations to FAA. They came back and said, okay, we can take these. They didn't accept all of them, but they took a number of them and said, okay, let's put these into the NOTAM, and so pilots have this opportunity. So like everything else, it evolves. It's something you want to make sure, first of all, it's safe. Second of all, people feel comfortable flying it. There are those who say, I'm not comfortable flying the approach to Oshkosh. And others who say, it's really not that bad. Again, it does take a special awareness, I guess I'll put it. It doesn't take special skill because we're all licensed pilots, but it takes a special awareness to do it. Some people are more comfortable with that than others. So we continue to say, how do we make it better? We'll take those recommendations. We'll consider them. We'll pass them along to FAA. And that's the kind of relationship we have. And the NTSB, everybody else has been marvelous. The fact the administrator comes here, the Secretary of Transportation comes here, they know the importance of this event to aviation. They come and see it, and we have an opportunity to show them on the medical side, on the certification side, on the airport side, to see what's going on here among grassroots aviators, because it's very easy to get locked into commercial aviation when you're in that office.
Right.
And to come back and say, well, there are more airplanes actually involved in general aviation. We have to pay attention to that too, because that's the foundation. That's the bedrock that all of the commercial aviation is built on, because every pilot has to start somewhere, and that's flying a GA airplane.
Yeah, and they get to kind of come here and get reminded of why maybe they were in aviation, or maybe why this is important, like you said, because this is fun. It's like, it might not be making them a ton of money. It might not be getting, the airlines aren't paying them to do certain things or investing money in them. But like, this is getting more people in aviation, and this is something that's really fun. And it kind of, I'm sure they come here and they start smiling and they're like, all right, we get it. I get it. This needs to be here. Yeah.
It's fun. It's, you're with other aviation geeks.
Yeah.
And we have a great time with that, because you don't have to. And one person once said to me, I spend most of my year explaining to my friends and neighbors why I fly, why I spend more on my airplane than I do fixing up my house, why it's safe, all of these things. He said, I come to Oshkosh, I don't have to explain it. Everybody speaks the language. And that's what makes it so great, that you're among kindred spirits, you're among a brotherhood, a sisterhood here, and it's a community. And it comes together each year, regardless of what you fly, what you'd like to see flying, it's here. And that's what makes Oshkosh so special. But the FAA comes here and they set up, they know they reach their constituency, their marketplace here. And they can talk to a lot of people and have conversations with many, many people here that they cannot do anyplace else throughout the rest of the year.
I'd say it's a great opportunity for the FAA to kind of be a personality to like show them like, hey, we're more than just this legal office that's here to get you in trouble. Like, come get to know me, come get to know us. Like, I love aviation too. Like, I'm here to enjoy this just like you are. Do it safely, but like, you know, I feel like it's a great opportunity for the FAA to kind of be more human and be more humanized and coming here and showing their face.
There's some very lots of hardworking people in that agency who are aviators themselves. You know, we've had associate administrators fly themselves in their airplanes here to Oshkosh. You know, so we talk about the DC, but even down to people like the region out of Chicago, to the Flight Standards District Office in Milwaukee. The relationship we've built with those people, the air traffic controllers that come from throughout the country to work here at Oshkosh and get that pink shirt, and then, you know, be able to proudly say, yeah, I did Oshkosh. You know, those kind of relationships are so special. And again, it bridges the gap, and we're all together here as one and have those conversations. Yeah. And that's so important for the future of aviation, to make sure that it continues, that if there are challenges out there, everything from airspace to certification to fuels to whatever it happens to be, you know, we can talk about those things here and say, all right, what are some of the solutions? Where should we go from here?
All right, I'm pretty much done with all the questions I have. I guess there's one more I could ask, but I have a section I want to do called rapid fire. Okay. So I'm just going to come up with a bunch of random. I have a couple I know I'm going to ask, but it might be a long list, might be a short list. So we'll kind of see where it goes. Okay. You ready?
Ready.
All right. What's your favorite? Oh, and make sure you answer as fast as possible. First thing comes to your head, as fast as possible.
Will do.
What's your favorite airplane?
P-38 Lightning.
What's your favorite airliner?
Airliner has to be, probably the Airbus 320.
Okay. What, Airbus 320?
Or 220.
Okay. I was like 320. That's very...
320, no. 380, but I haven't flown on one of those.
What's your favorite business jet?
Business jet? Oh, man. Probably whatever Gulfstream's coming up with, because they're up the road at Appleton. They're a big business just up the road.
What is a dream airplane of yours to fly? So like, it could be as big, it could be as fast as possible. It could be a space shuttle. What's like one plane or one aircraft that you would want to fly?
Okay. I'll go back to P-38. The other one is the Havilland Beaver on floats.
There you go. Float plane would be sweet, especially the Beaver. That's awesome. Do you have a favorite airport to fly to outside of Oshkosh? You can't say Oshkosh.
Okay. Well, Meigs was, but you know, but I'd have to say my favorite little airport, probably way up in northern Wisconsin. It's called a little town called Park Falls.
Okay.
And I go up there, and it's like finding an airport in the middle of a big green carpet, because it's all national forest up there.
That's cool.
And you land there, and that's the one that has the golf course right next to it.
There you go. That's cool. Do you have a least favorite airport? One that you just like don't like going into and will avoid it at all costs?
You know, there are some. I guess I'm a GA guy, and so sometimes the Class B, Class C airports, I have to be ready for them.
Yeah.
And that's just a matter of training. Yeah. You know, if there's an airport there, I like flying to it. Sometimes in a small GA aircraft, it's a little bit more tough, because sometimes you're not regarded as highly, and it becomes, you hear the word expedite a lot.
Yeah, go faster.
And so, I'm sure that, but, some of the big metro areas are kind of ones that I shy away from, but it's, that's probably something on me as much as anybody else.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would agree with you though too. Yeah. You're not wrong. All right, let's see, long legs or short legs in flying?
I drive this way too, long legs.
Legs.
I go, and again, my bladder doesn't hold out as much as my dreams do sometimes. So you end up landing someplace else and doing some great discoveries, landing in a little airport and say, hi, let's fuel up as long as I'm here. Oh, cool sandwich. Yeah, I'll get that.
That's so funny. I flew my dad after I got my commercial license, and we're like 10 minutes into the flight, and he's like, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, are you kidding me? Why didn't you go to the bathroom before 2 hours? Like, I did. I was like, all right.
I didn't think it was this exciting.
Yeah. We went to go fly to, in North Carolina, there's this place called BQ1. It's called Carthage, North Carolina. Okay. And it's the restaurant there is the Pick and Pig. And it has some of the best barbecue you'll ever have in your life. And it's just this like really hole in the wall airport that you land at. And then you eat under a porch on the outside and eat barbecue. Make sure you bring cash. I've told the story a ton of times. So everyone listening is like, but make sure you bring cash or else you have to wash dishes. But
okay, I'm going to write that down after we're done. Carthage, North Carolina. Got it.
BQ1 for barbecue one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a great airport to go to. But yeah, that's funny. Bathroom. Yeah. Let's see. All right. What's your favorite airline livery?
Airline livery. Oh boy. I still miss Midwest Express.
Okay. Do you have a least favorite airline livery? One that you're just like, oh,
man,
like the old Southwest
I think
planes.
we all have horror stories. Some of the big ones, whether it's American United, Delta, I've always had pretty good luck on, but it's sometimes they can't control it. Sometimes you just go, there's got to be a better way to run consumer businesses than this.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's your personal favorite year for Oshkosh, if you could choose one?
Off the top of my head, 1994, the year we had 15 Apollo astronauts here and the Concorde at the same time.
That's cool.
Every year is my favorite as soon as it's done, but that one stands out as just simply tremendous. 2017 is a close second because we had the Blue Angels, we had 7 Apollo astronauts. We had Stan Lee giving us a superhero and Jeff Bezos from Amazon all showing up at the same year.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What, so you are, say 2020 Oshkosh is going on, it's deep into it, you're on like day 4, you are really hungry. What's like your number one go-to food locally in Oshkosh at the airport that you'd want to eat?
At the airport, I head out just outside the main gate. There's a little food stand called Sacred Heart.
Okay.
Run by the Catholic Church, one of the Catholic churches in town at St. Jude Parish. And they've been there for years. They do a marvelous job. And it's good food, and I enjoy it. I'm going to tell you a quick story real fast.
Yeah, go for it.
People always say we need more healthy food here, and we've been working real hard to do that. And then we look at what people order the most of when they're at Oshkosh: brats, cheese curds, and root beer floats.
That's what they come to Wisconsin for.
That's
we need the cheese and the brats. Come on, You're on brand, man. What do you expect?
Right, Nothing like a good cheese curd.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. That's awesome. No, it's true though. So, all right, this time you're connecting on an airplane. I know that you kind of fly yourself, but you are connecting. You need to get to go Sun and Fun and check out the Rival down there. So you are in an airline. You're in Charlotte. You're in wherever, Chicago. You want to get some food. What's your go-to food at an airport?
Oh boy, go-to food in airport. Someplace fairly fast. It's I've eaten everything from Sbarro to McDonald's to everything else. There's a place in Buffalo I really like. It's on one of the concourses.
I don't think that sentence has ever been said before. There's a place in Buffalo I really like.
It's wonderful. It has local brews on tap, and the sandwich was really good. And I can't remember. And of course, there's in Buffalo they have an outlet for Anchor Bar, where the first Buffalo Wild Wings came up. That was the inspiration for that. So the Buffalo Wings actually invented in Buffalo at Anchor Bar. So that's in the airport in Buffalo. That's a long way to get to Charlotte or Sun and Fun, but it's pretty good.
But the food is great. Yeah. Side note, this is completely random, but I went to Ohio State in Columbus. Did you know that Buffalo Wild Wings was started in Columbus, Ohio?
That's right. It was. Yeah. The people in Buffalo will fight you about the Buffalo Wings, but Buffalo Wild Wings, those guys did pretty well for themselves.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. There's about 10 coming up here in the last 5 miles. So they're doing pretty well up here.
They are. Yep.
Well, cool. Those are pretty much all the questions I have for you. Oh, I have one more. If you are flying, say you're getting ready to go fly today, you have to grab one thing. What's one thing, object? It could be an iPad, sunglasses, watch, whatever that you always have to have while you're flying.
When I fly, certainly the iPad, to do that. Today I probably get away without the sunglasses because it's cloudy here. It's just, I've got my headset, and it's an old David Clark headset, and I love it.
Yeah.
And, sorry for the people at, Lightspeed and Bose. They're all wonderful. I've used them all, but it's my headset. And I think we all have those touch points that, this is my thing. And when I go through my checklist, I go, that's it. I'm comfortable. It fits my ears. And so
it's funny when you get out of your comfort zone, or kind of every pilot has a routine, whether you know it or not, whether you don't have your same headset, whether you didn't bring your seat cushion. If you have one thing that's not right, it can affect the whole flight. The whole time you'll be like, man, I really wish I had my seat cushion. Man, I wish I had my headset. So making sure you have everything you need to be comfortable is huge.
That's a great point, Justin, because as a pilot, you have to refocus and say, okay, I don't have that, but let's go through the checklist. And I'll tell you a very funny story very quickly before we run out of time here. My solo cross-country flight, taking off out of Oshkosh. And the Cherokee had a little quirk that I was flying at the time. If you didn't close the door exactly right, there was a little bitty gap between the door and the frame. And I had all my checkpoints on a piece of paper there, and I set it on the seat next to me as I'm taking off. And about 5 minutes out of Oshkosh, I'm just climbing to altitude at that point. And suddenly, there's that little gap in the door, and I see my little paper with all the checkpoints kind of quiver, and then whoop, out the door. Whatever it was, it folded out the door. I figured there's some farmer out west of Oshkosh suddenly had this checkpoint list fall on his face while he's driving his tractor. So now you're on your solo cross country, and you go, oh boy, now what? Well, I had my chart, I had my wristwatch, and I'm going, okay, let's do this the old school way. Yeah. And it actually got me to lacrosse and back around and got my solo cross country done. Told my instructor that, and she just went, oh boy, where did I get this student? And but that's, one of those things that it can mess with your head, but you have to say, okay, refocus. What am I doing? And learning to fly has been a marvelous tool for me and for anybody to say, okay, you've got to concentrate in the moment. Think ahead of the airplane. Do all of those things and forget about the outside distractions.
Yeah, and that's a good example to everyone listening, or even to yourself when you're doing training, that not everything's going to be perfect in a flight. Like, you have to figure out how to adapt. Aviation's all about adapting, and you have to, it's like, all right, I can focus on the fact that I just left my checklist and everything just fell in my flight log, just left the airplane and there's nothing I can do. But it's like, I'm in the air. I have to go to here and go back to here. I have no idea where I am. It's like, I have to figure this out somehow.
Landings are mandatory.
So it's like, you got to learn how to adapt, and you learn very early on your solo cross country. It's like, all right, what's plan B? What's plan C? How are we doing this? Is that a field? Can I land there? Just a thought process of going through that. Well, that's really funny. Yeah, that's cool. I have one more question for you, but I just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been great talking to you and learning more about what you do, kind of how you got here, how you started, why you started, and kind of the whole process of coming here. My last question is for you. Obviously, you said you have had more members than you've ever had before, but I'm sure there's still people that are sitting there and be like, oh, they just want my money. Like, it's such a cash grab. What do you say to someone? I'm not saying it is a cash grab. What do you say to someone, and how do you explain to someone that, like, how important membership is here and how important it is for you to give whatever the cost is for someone to join up for EAA?
Yeah. It's so important to have organizations where we show we're banded together, that we are a group. We have friends on AOPA, for instance, who do a lot of lobbying. What's really important about EAA is it's a grassroots organization, that you will get in touch with people locally. You'll get in touch with people regionally. You'll have resources for education. You'll have all of these resources that you can't get alone, or would cost you very much to do it on your own. We say that about AirVenture. If you try to do all the things you can do at AirVenture separately, it would cost you 6 times as much money, and you'd have to travel everywhere. You can do that here. So EAA is essential because first and foremost, it is a grassroots organization. It is a field organization. It is made up not only of us, but of members who care too and want the best for aviation. And I'd say, come on, be part of it. We have a lot of fun. And so, being part of it, you'll have even more fun in aviation.
Absolutely. I'm a member, so I'm not saying that it's a bad thing at all. I was just, because
there's a lot without being a member.
Yeah, I know. It's like, we have the sign up sheet right here. We take credit card, we take PayPal, we take however you want to pay. We'll take it. Yeah. No, that's awesome. But thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I look forward to hopefully maybe having you on later in the year as Oshkosh is closer. We can talk about 2020 Oshkosh and AirVenture and everything. So
let's do it again. Come up see the museum anytime. And,
absolutely.
We'll see you on the flight line at AirVenture.
Perfect. All right. Have a good one. Thanks. And that is a wrap of episode number 80 of the Pilot to Pilot podcast. Like I said earlier, leave us a review on iTunes. Check out our website, pilottopilot.hq.com. Also head to our Instagram page at Pilot to Pilot. Click the link. It is a link for our shop. The shop is back. It's back for the holiday. I do not know how long the shop will be back for. It could be permanent. Could just be until the end of Christmas or maybe even January. So check out the shop. Let me know what you think. Got some Laddie swag on there. Got some Pilot to Pilot merch, and hoping to get out some other stuff before Christmas comes along. Aviation, as always, happy flying.